Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravana Chari. Yamuna Tiravana Chari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Giraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radhashtami Mahamahotsav ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So I'm going to read a little bit from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela. Madhya Leela, chapter 8, and I'm reading from text. Just a second. Text 150. This is a conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Ramananda Rai. Sri Ramananda Rai then said, I've thus briefly explained the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now let me describe the position of Srimati Radharani. Krishna has unlimited potencies which can be divided into three main parts. These are the spiritual potency, the material potency, and the marginal potency, which is known as the living entities. In other words, these are all potencies of God, internal, external, and marginal. But the internal potency is the Lord's personal energy and stands over the other two. The original potency of Lord Vishnu is superior or spiritual, and the living entity actually belongs to that superior energy. But there is another energy called the material energy, and this third energy is full of ignorance. Originally, Lord Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore, his personal potency, the internal potency, has three different forms. Hladini is his aspect of bliss, Sandini of eternal existence, and Samvit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. My dear Lord, you are the transcendental reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Your pleasure potency, existence potency, and knowledge potency are actually all one in one internal spiritual potency. The conditioned soul, although actually spiritual, sometimes experiences pleasure, sometimes pain, and sometimes a mixture of pain and pleasure. This is due to his being touched by matter. But because you are above all material qualities, these are not found in you. Your superior potency is completely transcendental, and for you, there is no such thing as relative pleasure. Pleasure mixed with pain, or pain itself. This potency called Hladini gives Krishna transcendental pleasure. Through this pleasure potency, Krishna personally tastes all spiritual pleasure. Lord Krishna tastes all kinds of spiritual happiness, although he himself is happiness personified. The pleasure relished by his pure devotees is also manifest by his pleasure potency. And I'm just going to skip a little bit to a second section that describes Srimati Radharani. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency of Hladini. They are companions of her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. That supreme ecstasy of Srimati Radharani is the essence of spiritual life. Her only business is to fulfill all the desires of Krishna. Srimati Radharani is the topmost spiritual gem, and the other gopis, Lalita and Vishaka and so on, are expansions of her spiritual body. Srimati Radharani's transcendental body is brilliant in luster, full of transcendental fragrances. Lord Krishna's affection for her is like a perfumed massage. Srimati Radharani takes her first bath in the shower of the nectar of compassion. She takes her second bath in the nectar of youth. After her midday bath, Radharani takes another bath in the nectar of bodily luster, and she puts on the garment of shyness, which is her black silk sari. Srimati Radharani's affection for Krishna is her upper garment, which is pinkish in color, and she then covers her breasts with another garment composed of affection and anger towards Krishna. Srimati Radharani's personal beauty is the reddish powder known as kumkum. Her affection for associates is sandalwood pulp, and the sweetness of her smile is camphor. All these combined are smeared over her body. Conjugal love for Krishna is an abundance of musk, and with that musk, her whole body is decorated. Craftiness and covered anger constitute the arrangement of her hair. The quality of anger due to jealousy is a silk garment covering her body. Her attachment for Krishna is the reddish color of betel nuts on her brilliant lips. Her double dealings in loving affair constitute the black ointment around her eyes. The ornaments decorating her body are the blazing ecstasies of goodness and the constantly existing ecstasies headed by jubilation. All these ecstasies are the ornaments all over her body. Also ornamenting her body are the 20 kinds of ecstatic symptoms, beginning with Kilakinchana. Her transcendental qualities constitute the flower garland hanging in fullness over her body. The tilak of good fortune is on her beautiful forehead. Her various loving affairs are a gem, and her heart is the locket. Srimati Radharani's gopi friends are her mental activities, which are concentrated on the pastimes of Sri Krishna. She keeps her hand on the shoulder of a friend who represents youth. Srimati Radharani's bedstead is pride itself, and it is situated in the abode of her bodily aroma. She is always seated there, thinking of Krishna's association. Srimati Radharani's earrings are the name and fame of Srimati Radharani's earrings are the name, fame, and qualities of Lord Krishna. The glories of Lord Krishna's name, fame, and qualities are always inundating her speech. So I'm going to stop there. It's this beautiful poetic description by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So how can a fallen soul describe or even glorify the divine feminine counterpart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the embodiment of bliss, the source of devotional service? It's impossible. And so therefore we bow down to the Acharyas who are able to bless us with their mercy so that we could try to approach Srimati Radharani on a day like this. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. This beautiful description by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is telling us about the beauty of Srimati Radharani. And the beauty of Srimati Radharani is so intricately linked to her qualities. And that's the amazing thing. Beauty in this world can be deceiving. What looks beautiful may not necessarily be nice. And so beauty in this world can be covered. And someone who looks beautiful isn't necessarily adorned with all the good qualities that we would expect. And someone, or they may be, neither is beauty a disqualification. But that's the difference between our realm and the spiritual realm. Because the beauty of Srimati Radharani is just a symptom, just an indication of the person that she is. And can you imagine being in a space where beauty is symptomatic of your character. And so therefore, Srimati Radharani is the most beautiful because she's adorned with these good qualities. Just think about it. Her earrings are Krishna's name and Krishna's fame. She's anointed with the affection that she feels towards Krishna. Her tilak is the tilak of good fortune. Every aspect about her, every fiber of her existence is dedicated towards Krishna, such that her clothing, every inch of it, ounce of it, every mark that's decorated, every gopi dot is symptomatic of her love. And to be in a space where all these seemingly external things are just an indication of the internal beauty. And so therefore, it reminds me of a pastime where Srila Prabhupada was giving initiation. And he was giving initiation to a young girl. And we know her as Srila Prabhupada's Rukmini, And if you know Mother Rukmini, she's stunningly beautiful. In her youth and in her old age, she's just stunningly beautiful. So when Srila Prabhupada was giving her initiation, he looked at her and said, "You are a beautiful young woman, young girl. And now you have the opportunity to make the inside beautiful." And he gave her the name Rukmini. And he said, "And if you make the inside beautiful, then Krishna may come and kidnap you." And so today when we think and we meditate on the beauty of Srimati Radharani, we can meditate with this prayer. And this presentation that I'm giving to you today is a presentation based on prayer. Because how do we reach that far? It's so far ahead of the world that we live in. And so therefore, we can approach Srimati Radharani through these prayers. So dear Srimati Radharani, your beauty is symptomatic of who you are and your love for Krishna. So please beautify my mind and beautify my thoughts, beautify my heart. Please help me make the inside beautiful so that I too can dedicate every fiber of my existence for the pleasure of Sri Guru, Shiv, Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas. So we can meditate on Srimati Radharani's beauty in that way. Besides the physical beauty of Srimati Radharani, there's also the fact that her names are there to indicate all the aspects of her character. And one of the names that is popular for Srimati Radharani is Aradhana. And Aradhana comes from the word Radha is in it, and it means to worship. So it's referring to the greatest worshipper. And the thing about worship is that worship is not what you place in front of the altar. What you place in front of the altar is simply a token of yourself. Dear Krishna, I'm offering you this bottle of milk and these 3 types of fruits. It is a token of myself. Dear Krishna, because it's going to be a cake offering today, no? Dear Krishna, I'm offering you this, carrot cake with cream cheese. It is a token of myself. And Srimati Radharani gets that completely. And that's why she's a Radhana. That's why she's the greatest worshipper. So why that worship is so linked to her? Because every thought of Srimati Radharani is dedicated to Krishna. And when every thought of yours is dedicated on the spiritual platform, it means her complete heart is dedicated to Krishna. And that means all her emotions are therefore dedicated to Krishna. Now, I don't know about you, but my thoughts are not like that. And to the degree that my thoughts are separate from Krishna, to that degree, my experience of spiritual life will be different from Srimati Radharani's. And therefore, when my thoughts are separate from Krishna, then my heart is separate from Krishna, and my emotions are then divorced from Krishna also. But Srimati Radharani is the greatest worshipper because what she is placing on the altar is her thoughts, her heart, and her emotions. And therefore, she's considered to be the greatest worshipper. The art is not just to know what to place on the altar for us, but the art is also to know where to make the altar. And so therefore, when it's difficult for us as conditioned souls to place all our hearts and all our thoughts and all our emotions on the altar, then we've got to look at our life and transform everything in it to the altar. You make the world the altar. Was it Shakespeare who said the world is but a stage, and every man has a part? But this is the point. For a devotee, the world is but an altar, and everything is but an offering. So the question, your computer needs to become an altar. Your job needs to become an altar. Your home needs to become an altar. Relationships should become an altar, where we place ourselves in offering to Krishna. So therefore today we pray to Srimati Radharani that you are the supreme worshipper. You are Aradhana. Help me make my life an altar so that I can place myself before Krishna and with the token of my thoughts, my heart, my emotions. Help me bind these things onto the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Now, one aspect of Srimati Radharani that I feel like as a devotee we can genuinely relate to is her mood of devotional service. Ultimately, any service that we receive, any service, any ounce of service, even, just having the opportunity to sit and hear or speak about Srimati Radharani has to be directly sanctioned by her herself. Whether it is just, anything from sweeping the floor to pinning up the decorations to, just wearing your tilak so that somebody else can see it. All of it is a devotional service that is directly sanctioned by Srimati Radharani, to which we have access through Srila Prabhupada. And that service involves our energy and engages every aspect of our being. And we see that in a pastime of Srimati Radharani's and Krishna's that happens in Vrindavan when Krishna was in a bit of trouble for killing a bull. I'm going to take a little bit dramatic license with this, and I'm going to read a little bit of a creative rendition of this pastime, of when the bull Aristasura, bulldozed his way into Vrindavan, and Krishna, seeing that all the residents of Vrindavan were in utter fear and terrified of this bull, he reins him in, he gives him the blow, and the bull's dead. But the gopis were not happy, because how can you kill a bull? And so, with poetic license, there was this transcendental court case in Vrindavan. And in that court case, the judge was Lalita, because she's the one who represents the potency of speaking, the words of Srimati Radharani. Like we read in the text, that all her expansions are expansions of herself. So they embody qualities of her. The Astasakis all embody specific qualities of Srimati Radharani. And Lalita Devi specifically embodies the quality of Srimati Radharani's speech. So there is Lalita, and she is the judge. And Lalita says, order in the court of Raja. We have the plaintiff, our regal Queen Radha, the daughter of Maharaj Vishwabhanu, and the heartbeat of all of Raja, and the defendant, the impudent, infidel, but a thief, Krishna. Krishna. Objection, Your Honor. That allegation has not been proven. The residents laugh. Lalita. Srimati Radharani will be represented by Vishaka. Please state your case. Vishaka. Oh, Honorable Judge Lalita, all of Raja knows that to our Vaishnav community, there is none more dear than our cows. All the scriptures deem the cow to be the most sacred, and as sacred as our very own mother. And today, Krishna, who has been crowned as Gopal, the protector of the cows, has viciously murdered a cow. Krishna. Objection! It wasn't a cow, it was a bull and a demon, Lalita. There will be no sexism allowed in the court of Raja, understood? Krishna, withdrawn. Lalita, the defendant Krishna will be represented by the austere Brahmin, Madhumangal. How does the defendant plead? Madhumangal, Your Honor, we wish to place on record that there are mitigating circumstances in this unfortunate event. To which note, a gopi distracts him with a bowl of ladus. What were those circumstances? I don't quite remember. Vishaka. The Brahmana supports a cow killer. It's now Kali Yuga in the spiritual world. The residents. Lalita. Order. How do you plead, defendant? Did you or didn't you kill the bull? Krishna. I did, but Lalita, the defendant pleads guilty. Sri Radha is the queen of Raja. What is her suggested punishment? Radha. According to the scriptures, when Lord Indra killed the devotee demon Vritrasura, he had to atone for his sins by bathing in all the holy places. Krishna will have to do the same, or never shall we gopis set our eyes on him again. Madhumangal. Objection! Why does he need to bathe in the holy places? Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Silence. Everyone turns and stares at Krishna. And then they burst into laughter, rolling on the floor with tears streaming from their eyes. Order, Lalita says. Do you want me to slap an additional charge of propagating Mayavad philosophy? Krishna is sentenced to bathe in all the holy places in all three worlds. Case closed. And Krishna goes and says, this is no problem. A swim is a good thing. And he uses the heel of his foot and he brings it down with force onto the ground of Raja, and the ground separates to form a whole kund. And he asks, and all the holy rivers present themselves before Krishna, folding their palms, and they enter into that hole in the ground, and that's how we get Shamakund. And Krishna steps into the water, gets out, job done. And the gopis look. And Krishna says, so now that I have atoned for all my sins, you've actually accused me of killing a cow when actually it was a demon, and therefore you are now in a sinful state. And I can't associate with you like that. So you would need to therefore bathe in my kund. And Radharani goes, no. I'm not bathing in your kund. If I need to bathe in a kund, we'll build our own kund. And so then the gopis, they break their bangles and they get down on their knees, and using their bangles, they dig into the sand of Raja to create a kund. And as they're digging, a line of gopis go all the way to Manasi Ganga. Now, if you know Govardhan, and if you know where Shamakund is, and if you know where Manasi Ganga is, it's like 1/4 of a parikrama. And a human line going all the way to Manasi Ganga. And with their pots, they grasp the water of Manasi Ganga, they grasp it, and they form a chain, taking water all the way to Radhakund. And Krishna looks at this and says, this is going to take a long time, rather than scheduled in a couple of hours. Of course, They were not going to do that. But then the holy rivers, they come before Srimati Radharani and they bow down and they say, please accept this service from us. And Srimati Radharani can't refuse. And so she allows the holy rivers to then enter into her kund. Now, this is another really important quality of Srimati Radharani, and that is her compassion. We read that her first bath is in the nectar of compassion. And this compassion is so integral because she sees that there's a living entity willing to render service. And it is beyond her to let that opportunity go. Even if it is, if she has to now bow down that coyness of like, I'm not going to accept the water from your kund. She bows down that coyness because she wants to bring the soul closer to Krishna. And that's this really specific nature that she has that's overwhelmingly purchases Krishna. That she's not in the forefront and there's no tinge of envy in her service. If there's someone who can serve Krishna better, bring them. And to her, everyone can serve Krishna better. So and that is why we say that Lord Chaitanya comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Krishnanandini Mataji was saying that what does it mean to come in somebody's mood? You see a person impersonate somebody else, kind of like charades or something. Somebody impersonates somebody else. And just by the way they're doing it, the tone of their voice, the kind of vibes that they give off, you're like, it's that person, But that kind of, that physically it's not that person. But because of the way they come across and the certain intention and inner workings of that person, it comes across because the way they're acting. And so that's Lord Chaitanya. Physically, he's not looking like Radharani. But everything else about him has her mood, has her inner workings, her inner intentions, her priorities. And so therefore, Lord Chaitanya is known as Namo Mahavadanyaya. He can be the most merciful because he has that mood of Srimati Radharani, of bringing every single being closer to Krishna. And actually that's what being non-envious means. When we lack envy, we're able to bring every being closer to Krishna. And when we have envy, we keep ourselves apart. Whether it is with people in the world or whether it's between devotees, it's the same. Envy keeps us apart, and compassion brings us closer. And so therefore, we can turn to Srimati Radharani and pray for a drop of her compassion. As much as that is such a tall order, and we could drown in that drop of a drop, we can still today pray for that drop of compassion, because that drop of compassion will remove the seeds of envy in our heart and help us understand that every living being, every living entity has the right to serve. And it is our mission and our role to allow them to. So here we see again that devotional service is the gift of Srimati Radharani. It is her gift. And so there we see the gopis digging in the dirt to create this kund. And it says something, that for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can put his heel on the ground and the kund will appear, magic, all done. But for the devotee, they will undergo the trial, they will undergo the tribulation, they will take up the hardship that is required to please Krishna. And we can see that with Srila Prabhupada. That is why Srila Prabhupada is able to attract the mercy of Krishna. It wasn't just that, I want to go to America and then, I'm here, and the disciples came and it was all over magic. like I can channel energies and therefore it's done. Srila Prabhupada's story shows his trial and shows us his triumph and shows us the month at sea and the 2 heart attacks and the 1 year in America with no one and nothing and having been completely destitute, but seeing the vision of a worldwide movement. And that is the same, and if not more, as pleasing to Krishna's heart. When the gopis, they break their bangles and they dig in the soil. We too have to break our bangles. Because in the 11th canto, it tells you a story of a young girl who wanted to be married, and to 2 gentlemen who visited the house. And she wanted to entertain them properly, so she had to clean rice. These days, girls, we don't do that. They had to clean the rice, so you just chuck the rice in the air and catch it and stuff like that in order to take out the dirt pieces. Nowadays, they package it nicely for you, basmati. You just got to put the water and wash it out. But if she was going to do that, they would hear her bangles clang against each other. And then they would know that she doesn't have a servant. That would be considered low class. So she breaks all her bangles. And she leaves one, so that when she cleans the rice, they won't brush against each other. And so similarly, we have to break the bangles. We break the bangles of all the things in this world that we're so super attached to. We break the bangles of all the reasons why we can't come closer to Krishna, until only the Krishna bag fills Radha Kund, the melted heart of Srimati Radharani. But what do we know of these things? And how can we even identify with it? So therefore we turn to Srimati Radharani and we pray to her that you are the queen of devotional service. Every ounce of service I've ever had in my life has come through you and through the acharyas. So then please take all my hours, all my minutes, all my days, all my years, even if I'm unwilling and part of me knows I'm hiding some back, take it anyway. Take it and engage me in devotional service. Take it and let me be the servant of your servant's servants, because that is the only way I will be in touch with the Hladini Shakti. And so therefore, any ounce of joy that we experience on the spiritual path, any fragment of connection comes from that Hladini Shakti. And that Hladini Shakti is Srimati Radharani. So help me not just take all my hours, all my minutes, and all my days and engage me in devotional service, but engage me in devotional service with absorption. Because if there's absorption, then I'll have the right balance of what devotional service I should be running around for and what devotional service I should be sitting and chanting for. So therefore, engage it with absorption. The last thought in these prayers for Srimati Radharani I had is this idea that Srimati Radharani has complete faith in Krishna. And it may seem like such a lame statement, of course she has complete faith in Krishna. But when we look at how, when she is separated from Krishna, how it seems to be such suffering and how separation is not something that we can really relate to and understand, we think that, but why? How can she endure such a thing? How can she have still so much faith that she understands that there is no bad? That behind every bad is good. That she has so much faith in Krishna's plan. That she never once turns against him and says, how could you? Unless it's for the sake of the pastime. So we look at Srimati Radharani's absolute faith in Krishna. That she knows that they are never separated. She understands that. If you listen to Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's classes that he gave leading up to Janamastami, which was said the sweetness and what of Krishna? It was something based on the sweetness of Krishna. But actually that class was not on the sweetness of Krishna. It was on the glory of Srimati Radharani. Because you cannot glorify Krishna without actually seeing, oh my God, your devotee is so glorious. And so in that class, you see how Srimati Radharani's faith is completely fixed on the idea that Krishna and I are one. We are one in intention. He knows my heart completely. He is faithful to me. And why is this important to us? Because it's important for us to remember that Krishna is faithful. To Krishna, we should have faith in Krishna. Reasons of why we should accept that Krishna has our best interest and that we are never separate from Krishna either, because he's within us as a super soul. So we can also pray to Srimati Radharani for her ounce of that faith, to know that Krishna is always with us, and to know that any of his actions are for our benefit. And with that prayer, we ask Srimati Radharani that this sense of compassion, this sense of taking all our time and energy and engaging us in devotion, the sense of being able to beautify our insides, these prayers that we place at her lotus feet, they will be imperfect. And we're saying them feels like, looking at the stars, in the spiritual sky, while having our feet solidly rooted in the mud. But still, as we say them, we come closer. And as we say them, we become purified. And that's what we need. That the day of Radhashtami will just take us one step closer to the spiritual reality and the spiritual realm, so that we can align with the words of the Acharyas, align with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, and align with the Vaishnavas for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani and for the pleasure of Krishna. So I'm going to stop here. There is 2 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? Okay, so if just for the sake of clarity, the Abhishek will be in the amphitheater at 10:30 for those who have booked for it. And there is another darshan at 4:15, and we'll have Guru Puja now, and then darshan at 7:30. Shri Radha Radha ki, Shri Radhashtami Maha Mahotsav ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Nittai Gaura Premanande.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada Haribo. Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Bhakti Sadma Vandamo Isavadana Mate Vandamo Isavadana Mate Vanda Yahara Prasadeva Devavatariya Gyan Yahara.
You can sing full line deep. Full line deep.
Yahara Prasadeva Devavatariya Gyanya. Sorry, bro. Krishna Pratihoya Haite Krishna Krishna Pratihoya Haite Guru Mukha Padma Vagya Sitete Koriya Gyan. Guru Mukha Padma Vagya Sitete Koriya Gyan. Guru Arana Kariha Mane Asa Arana Kariha Mane Asa Sri Guru Charane Rati Teise Utama Gati. Sri Guru Charane Rati Te se uttama gati Sri Guru Te prasade pure sava asa Te prasade pure sava asa Jakudana jilo jen jane jane Prabhu se Jakudana jilo jen jane jane Prabhu se Devi jnanida prakashito Devi jnanida prakashito Prema bhakti yo hoite Davi davi naso yase Prema bhakti ya hoite davina vinasa yase Vedegaya rasarita Vedegaya rasarita Sri Guru Karuna Sindhu Ajamajanara Bandhu Sri Guru Karuna Sindhu Ajamajanara Bandhu Lokena Lokena Divana Lokena Lokena Divana Ha ha Prabhu Karanaya Deva Mari Parasaya Ha ha Prabhu Karanaya Deva Mari Parasaya Epejana Goshuk Tribhuvana Epejana Goshuk Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Loya Sharana Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Vivo Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Rivo Jaya Guru Deva Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Vishnu Pradaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namah. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Tatsatari Satarine Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadagara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadagara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadagara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu